Welcome to the Scrum.org Community Podcast, a podcast from the home of Scrum. In this podcast, we feature professional Scrum trainers and other Scrum practitioners sharing their stories and experiences to help learn from the experience of others. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Hello and welcome to the Scrum.org Community Podcast. I'm your host, Dave West, CEO here at Scrum.org. Today's podcast is going to be focused on the journey of one of our amazing professional Scrum trainers, PSTs. PSTs are licensed to deliver our training all over the world, and they have a unique perspective and often a unique journey to this license. We're very fortunate today to have Souleymane Thiongane, a PST, joining us to share his journey and his aha moments during this journey. So welcome to the podcast, Souleymane.
Thank you for this invitation, Dave, and thank you to the whole Scrum.org staff. So my name is Souleymane, and I'm living in a different location, as you mentioned. So my native country is Senegal, so a little country in West Africa. Currently, I'm based in Morocco. I'm living there since 2 years now. And from time to time, I will need to travel to my client, which is based in Europe, in Brussels. So yeah, this is Souleymane, and I'm very happy to and excited to be there.
Wow, you're sort of have passport, have professional Scrum license, will travel. You're getting into a lot of interesting places, and I'd love to lean into some of that sort of knowledge and that experience after we talked a little bit about your journey to where you're at the moment, because obviously every country, every culture, every situation, how they do Scrum's a little bit different, which is really interesting. But before we do talk about that, let's make sure our listeners have an idea of your background. Tell me a little bit about your background and when you came upon Scrum.
Yeah, very interesting question. So my background, I am a software developer. In my early journey of my career, I was developing software, web softwares first of all, before starting to build Android applications with small teams. I was in which I was, let's say, team leads. That's how we were calling our position that moment. Until one day we were facing difficulties when we were dealing with our clients and their requirements, because things were changing a lot, and they were complaining about how we were delivering them their products and the services. So my manager back then in 2015 told me something like, Souleymane, we need to find out a way to improve how we're dealing with our customer, because this approach is not working at all. So I started to look for some methods or some things that can help us improve our way of work. That's the way I found Scrum, in YouTube. I started to learn about it, and yeah, we started to implement it. Not that professional Scrum I know today as a PhD, but a version of Scrum I was using before, and that I improved, along the way. But it was very helpful for us because it at least helped us, increase our ability to adapt to change, increase the customer satisfaction, and increase our ability to deliver value to our customer. So when we did that experimentation with the framework, it was a success, and the company started to invest a little more on that until we had a huge division back in 2019. We had a huge division that were delivering all the digital products that the company wanted in his transformation journey. Yeah. And after that, this was in a telecom industry. It was my first, meaning the first industry in which I was. I worked on different other industries after that, because when I left, I started my own company to do coaching services, consulting services, and training mainly to different other companies and industries. I worked in an event industry. I worked in a retail industry, in a bank as well. It was a very interesting one. One of the things that interested me a lot in that company is that we were working not only with IT teams, but we were working with different other teams like marketing teams, because they were doing the transformation of the business. So it was very challenging and interesting to see Scrum with people that are not, IT guys. Very interesting challenges. And now I'm in a new industry again, in the manufacturing automotive and industry with Toyota in Belgium, Toyota Motor in Europe, since a couple of months. A very interesting one as well, because we're trying to see, Toyota and TPS and how they inspired many other companies to improve their way of working. So trying to see the link between that TPS and Agile and Scrum, and they have similarities, meaning things they can, share each other. So trying to see that the link is something that I'm really excited about. And yeah, that's where Scrum brought me since I started to learn about it.
Wow. Well, that's a hell of a journey. And you're going in lots of different places, lots of different industries. Do you think, and I'd love your take on this. I mean, lots of different companies, right? And lots of different industries.
Mhm.
Do you think there's a lot different about how they implement Scrum? Or and what are those differences if there are? Or do you think it's very, very similar? What's your take on that, Suleiman?
Yes, I do think that they are approximately all facing the same challenges regarding how they are implementing Scrum, or meaning the challenges they may face when implementing Agile or Scrum. They are all the same. I don't think that it's related to the company, because I can say that the same issues we were facing when we were when we were in a telecom industry, for instance, we was at some moment we were wanting to have a more involvement of, because when we were starting doing our Scrum, we were in what we can call our bubble. We can say that we are an agile team delivering things, but we know that a company is not working like that. We have multiple teams that are working all together. So if you're working in a different way, which is not the same with the others, you will face issues once in the time. So one of the main challenges we faced was involvement of, first of all, leadership to, to help us, drive that change, by giving the example themselves. And this is something I found like a pattern in all the companies in which I work, because maybe they had an understanding of Scrum and agility. They thought that, Scrum is a simple and easy to implement framework, and they read the Scrum guide, and they start, leading the change by what they understood. But this is for instance, just an example, to give an example, one pattern we can see in different industries. Another thing is, for instance, the capacity or ability to adapt to change. They are all facing the same difficulty to meet the customer requirements. So yeah, I don't think that this is agnostic. This is related to a specific industry. By the way, it can apply, as I told previously, to IT companies or companies that are not related to that at all, like marketing people.
Yeah, in fact, one of the most interesting case studies I worked on in 2023 was Gillette and their new exfoliating male razor. They the software element and that program was incredibly small, but
Interesting.
but they use Scrum very effectively.
Mm.
I think that's a message. So there's more things that bring these organizations together than actually makes them apart. Okay, so tell me a little bit about your experience with professional Scrum. So you were doing Scrum in the telco company. You then,
Mhm.
after you've tried it across multiple teams, doing it, you got that experience, you thought, hey, I got some unique skills here. I can share this with more companies, more organizations, and you went self-employed. Tell me when you discovered professional Scrum and the work we were doing here at Scrum.org.
Yes, I discovered professional Scrum not that long, let's say 5 years ago, not more than that, yeah, because as I told previously, meaning I was learning about Scrum from different sources, but when I read about professional Scrum and Scrum.org, I found that, the resources I was finding there, and the people even I was finding there, the quality of the resources was at a different level. And I started to understand what meaning that professional Scrum is
Yeah.
compared to what we can call the mechanical Scrum, because most of the people and even companies can fall into what I call the trap of doing the mechanics and forgetting or losing sight of the end customer or the product, and losing sight of why we're doing all of these, because all of these are just the means to achieve that ultimate goal. So the professional Scrum, personally, it was a aha moment, because it helped me connect the dots toward what is the most important thing: to deliver value, to satisfy customer, to build a working product, those kind of stuff. Not only focusing on doing retrospective, doing daily scrums, doing sprints extra, but having insight the end goal, which is satisfying customer and having a valuable product. This was the
Yeah.
biggest aha moment I can say I discovered with Professional Scrum.
Yeah, it's so easy to focus on the mechanics,
Mm,
and it's a very effective way of doing work and getting people to work together. It's a great
exactly.
rhythm.
Mm,
However, the real value you get from Scrum is you realized, and I realized as well,
mm,
was really when you flip it from doing work to delivering value, and
mm,
that moment has a huge impact. For me, it was I was working at a startup, and Ken was my mentor. And even though I'd been talking about Scrum, I'd been writing stuff about Scrum, I hadn't done it really, not really, really, not. And then Ken introduced some very simple changes to how we thought about the backlog,
okay.
and I saw huge change to how the teams approached the problem and the
Mm.
outcomes that we saw. And you did the same, which is awesome. So do you let's talk a little bit about your experiences being a world traveler, Morocco, Belgium, Africa or West Africa. Um,
Mm.
do you, what do you see in these markets? Is how's Scrum being adopted, say, for instance, in Africa today?
Yeah, very good and interesting question. Because when I joined Morocco, I found here a market that is very, let's say, dynamic, because we have many big companies that are, working on the transformation journey, meaning that are building products in the digital, digital product for their customers. So we found here a market that is really dynamic. But this is, we can say, in Africa, limited to this part or in this region of Africa. If you go a little below Africa, for instance, to where I'm looking, my native country, in Senegal or other African countries below, you can see that the market is not that mature, let's say. People are not really aware of those products coming from Scrum.org, or even, products from Scrum. And we found out as PhDs in Africa that we need to work on that. This is what one of our biggest challenges, because we're trying to, let's say, educate, we're trying to help people understand how they can find value in this and start working on this. In Africa, we can say a couple of industries that are trying this framework. For instance, telecom company, as I told you, a couple of banks, but you can count them, into your hand, your fingers, but not more than that. Compared to what we can see in Europe, for instance, or we can see in other markets, it's more. There are far more demand, regarding this framework. So yeah, we're facing difficulties, and one of the ways we can try to solve this is, as I told earlier, to educate them about that. For instance, me personally, I try to work on that by building content regarding Scrum, how it can help them, how they can find value in it, trying to share my experience in social networks like LinkedIn, trying to write blog posts or even videos on YouTube, so that they can see the value on it, and maybe it will work on helping us have a more let's say mature market, and they can see value on those products.
I mean, there's a lot of opportunity in Africa. There's a
Yeah,
significant digital revolution happening across the
yeah,
whole continent,
yeah,
and particularly in West Africa and the like, where there's a lot of organizations that are growing. And Africa's obviously got an amazingly young working population who
exactly.
are digital native. They've never seen anything else, right? Wouldn't you
Yeah.
say?
Mm,
And so I think there's a massive opportunity, and I think you and I have talked about this before.
yeah,
However, the they're a little bit behind in terms of Scrum experience and knowledge, but that's
yeah.
probably a good thing. Maybe they'll never have to do mechanical Scrum, or they'll never
Yeah,
have to
probably,
fight,
exactly.
or they'll never have to
That's a good
fight
thing of it.
through the
Exactly.
waterfall,
Mhm. Yeah.
mentor. It is interesting. I was recently involved in teaching a class to one of our um, we support an organization called Year Up, which is a charity, and I was chatting to the students, and one of the students said, "Yeah, what is this waterfall thing? How can it possibly work? How can you know everything up front?" And I was like, "Oh." From the man who obviously wasn't a babe, but as the expression is, from the mouth of babes, you get this sort of perspective. It's super interesting. So what next? What's next for you, Souleymane? What you're practicing Scrum with Toyota in Belgium, which is great. You're teaching Scrum. You're building lots of content to help evangelize Scrum into the African continent. What's next for you? What are you excited for in the next few months?
Yeah, a very good question. So the main challenge I had these previous days was to become a PST. So first of all, I have to mention that, by the way, because it was tough, it was challenging. It took me around 2 years or even a little more than that. But it's something that I really enjoyed. I enjoyed, I enjoyed more the path on to becoming a PST than having the badge of PST, because I learned a lot. I discovered awesome, amazing people who are willing to help, and I really enjoy that community. So what's next for me? First of all, I'm trying to have a similar community with the same sort of values and way of working in my region. And I already started since the beginning of this year. So we're working on a community we are calling Agile Connect. We are starting in our how to call it, in my native country in Senegal, Agile Connect Senegal. We have people in there very motivated, very engaged, who are doing professional Scrum, who are experimented a little, and who are learning. Sometimes when I have trainings, I can give free slots just for them to better understand and see the value. We did one a couple of weeks ago on PSFS, on facilitation skills. They really liked it, so they are discovering, and they practice this and bring value to their company. So this is my first, let's say, next step, meaning how I can help the things I learned in this journey of becoming a PST, how I can help my community back, to improve as well. The second thing I'm targeting, and I'm really excited about it, is probably why not I want to, write a book. I don't know if it will be in English or in French. I don't know exactly, but it's something that I'm really excited about. I have a couple of interesting ideas. I'm working on it. And yeah, maybe in a couple of months or a couple of years, who knows? We will see a book, maybe prefaced by Dave West, and talking about Scrum and agility. Who knows?
If you can't find anybody better to write a forward, I'm always willing. I know it will be a great book, or whatever.
Exactly.
Writing
Yeah.
books is it's a love-hate thing. The experience of, I've obviously been involved in the book series. We have 12 books now in the Professional Scrum series, and I've also written a few myself on
Okay.
this journey. And yeah, there's moments I love it, there's moments I hate it, and afterwards, I remember both really well. But obviously, we're here to help. I'd love to just talk a little bit about community and the value. One thing that I've really enjoyed about being the CEO of Scrum.org is the community,
Yeah.
both the professional Scrum trainer community, who, I'm fortunate that many of them have become great friends, and also mentors and coaches and
Yeah.
helpers, but also the broader community, the passion. One thing that I'm always very disappointed about work, and I think this is again a testament to where I think the opportunity is in Africa, is that you go to a company and people they're just sort of down. They're just sort of somebody's taken their enthusiasm bone and thrown it away or something. And the energy, the passion, and great Scrum teams have energy and passion. That's part of professional Scrum. I think it's the art of the possible, right? But when you find these people and you create this environment where they can flourish, either in the community or in the team, or or a small section of our PST community, amazing things happen. And I think that your focus on doing that will be a rewarding journey, and is great for Scrum, but it's also great for the world as well.
Right.
Yeah, interesting times ahead. So we
Actually,
try
yeah.
to keep these podcasts short. I could talk to you about your adventures and your journeys all day, but unfortunately we haven't got the time. And I know our listeners certainly enjoy these snapshots into our amazing professional Scrum trainers. But so thank you for your time, Souleymane.
Thank you a lot for inviting me again. It was really nice for me to be there. And for the people who are listening to us, I will just invite you, if you want to learn a bit more about me, Souleymane, or my company, go to Scrum.org. You will find my profile, or you can find my company in the Professional Trainer Network as well. Or go directly to my website, youragility.com, and you will find me and the amazing team I'm working with to help companies in Africa deliver value and, thrive in the complex world. Thank you, Dave.
Great. Thank you, Souleymane. Okay, everybody. So here we are. This is the Scrum.org Community Podcast. I was your host, Dave West, CEO here at Scrum.org. Today we had a really interesting conversation with a professional Scrum trainer at PST, Souleymane Thiongane, who is based in Morocco, but works all over the world, which I'm sort of a little jealous, particularly in the winter, because many of those places sounded a little bit warmer and nicer than where I am in Boston at the moment. But we were fortunate to hear his journey to professional Scrum, his journey through many industries, telecommunications, banking, events, and now in the auto world with Toyota. The fact that he's both practicing and teaching at the same time is a kind of a theme for many of our professional Scrum trainers, and he gets the opportunity to share his own experiences and his own stories in his journey and in his work with his students and with his colleagues. So I think that was a really interesting takeaway, and obviously the great opportunity we have in Africa, and maybe they'll never do mechanical Scrum. How nice would that be? Anyway, so thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of this journey. This is the Scrum.org Community Podcast. For other podcasts, maybe you want to hear about other professional Scrum trainers or some other interesting guests that I'm fortunate enough to get on this medium. Feel free to go to our channels on all of your podcast platforms, or go to the Scrum.org website to find them. Thanks for listening. Bye bye. Scrum on.
Bye, everyone.